All right, I'm Peter, and my partner is Anthony. And together we're going to be discussing our claim that the United States should complete the physical barrier between the United States and Mexico. We're supporting this with an inherency claim, which is the current state of the border is not secure enough. A significance claim that the lack of security affects a lot of people in the southwestern United States, and the majority of Americans support the wall. And a solvency claim that completing the wall will increase security at the border. I'd first like to speak about the security of the border. There's a lot of problems. One of the main problems is drugs passing through the border. According to the U.S. Border Patrol's seizure statistics for the fiscal year of 2012, they seized 2,297,662 pounds of marijuana, 5,992 pounds of cocaine, 6,383 ounces of heroin, and 3,430 pounds of meth. This is a lot of drugs, and this represents only an estimated 20% of the total that's coming into the United States to the Mexican border, and the amount that's coming through that border makes up roughly 90 to 95% of the drugs entering the country, depending on the drugs, compared to what's coming in from Canada or through the coastal borders. So that's a really big problem. And associated with that is also a crime and violence problem. The drug trade brings a lot of crime with it. According to Fox News, the Department of Justice's latest National Drug Threat Assessment says there were 267 kidnappings in Phoenix in 2009 and 299 in 2008. The report says victims usually have a connection to smuggling and drug trafficking. The report also showed rise on assaults on Border Patrol and law enforcement agents in that area. In addition to the violence related to drugs from the Mexican drug cartels, there's also disturbing information that says, according to the Washington Times, Hezbollah is using the same southern narcotic routes that Mexican drug kingpins do to smuggle drugs and people into the United States, and they reap this money to finance their operations that they use to attack the United States or other places around the world. And there's also, of course, there are lots of economic issues associated with illegal immigration. One statistic I found said that according to the Federation for American Immigration Reform, the total educational, medicinal, and incarceration costs in Arizona due to illegal immigration are $2.6 billion a year, which is a significant amount. So we feel that all these things pose a significant problem that needs to be rectified. I'd like to speak briefly about the support for the wall. According to a Rasmussen report's National Telephone Survey, 68% of United States voters support the continued building of a fence on the Mexican border, and just 21% oppose the continued building of a fence. I also found that it was interesting that the wall has been supported by the Clinton, Bush, and Obama administrations, and the wall's also been supported by their opponents during their campaigns. So it's an interesting issue that's seen support from people regardless of political affiliation. So I think it's clear to say that this is a very important issue for Americans. Thirdly, I'd like to speak about how the wall is going to solve the problem. So completing the wall will increase security at the border. There's already walls in place in several areas along the border, such as San Diego, Arizona, and where there is a wall, it's helping a lot. According to About.com, the number of people caught crossing San Diego's border illegally has dropped dramatically. In the early 90s, about 600,000 people attempted to cross the border annually, and after construction of the fence and increased border controls, that number drops to just 150,000 in 2007. Near Yuma, Arizona, they have a triple fence. They have a 20-foot steel wall, followed by a tall steel mesh fence, followed by a chain link fence with barbed wire on top. And according to Christian Science Monitor, Bernanke, a patrol agent, says that since the triple fence was completed, there's been a 72% decline in illegal migrant apprehensions in the 120-mile swath of the U.S.-Mexican border, known as the Yuma sector. 800 people used to be apprehended trying to cross that border every day. Now agents only catch about 50 or so trying to get across. If you look at these two instances, I think it's very interesting that in both cases, the building of the wall has lowered the number of apprehensions by roughly 70 to 75%, which shows that it's equally effective in different areas of the country. And it's also interesting that in San Diego, the border spans, these stats in San Diego are having to do with just San Diego, whereas the stats from the Yuma sector have to do with a 120-mile stretch. Shows that the wall is effective in different situations throughout the country. our opponents and other opponents of the wall will undoubtedly point a lot of fingers at problems in the wall, and they'll say, well, when we build walls, it just moves where people cross, and because they'll just go around it and they'll go to more remote locations. And I think this is actually not necessarily a bad thing, but it shows why the fence should be completed. If there's a fence spanning the entire border, then there will be a first line of security at all points, and those remote areas will be less attractive because there will be security in place. And we also recognize that building a wall is not an end-all, cure-all solution to the problem. Illegal immigration is very complex, but completing the wall is a really valuable tool that will help. According to the Arizona Republic News, the Border Patrol says that the fence is doing its intended job. The border fence is a speed bump in the desert, spokesman Mike Scully says, and it slows them down long enough to respond. So it's effective in lowering apprehensions, it's slowing people down long enough that the other ways of securing the border can be more effective as well, in addition to the wall being effective on its own. So as a result of all this, Anthony and I suggest that the United States should complete the physical barrier between the United States and Mexico, and we suggest that the majority of the wall, especially in the main areas of passage, should be constructed like the wall in the Yuma sector, which is tall, strong, and with 2 or 3 layers. Thank you.